In the year 2157, humans had finally reached beyond their own solar system. They built small colonies on faraway planets. Samantha Wyatt worked as a scientist who studied alien plants and animals on a colony called Horizon's Edge. She spent her days looking for ways to make the harsh planet more like Earth. She never expected to meet aliens from another civilization. One day, a huge black ship came down through the sky. It looked like a giant spear made of dark glass. Strange lights moved across its surface in ways that human science couldn't explain. The colony's weapons were no match for this ship. While everyone else ran away in fear, Samantha stood her ground. She wasn't scared. She was fascinated by the alien ship. From the ship came Queen Xeralix, the ruler of the Valkyrie Dominion. She was surrounded by guards wearing armor that looked like insect shells. The queen was almost 7 feet tall with skin that changed colors like a mood ring. She had 6 eyes, each one a different shade of purple. She moved with the grace of a dancer but the power of a predator. She looked at the human settlement with cold, calculating eyes. "Take me to your leader," she said in perfect English. She had been studying human broadcasts for many years. Samantha stepped forward. "We have no single leader here, but I can speak for us." The queen's skin rippled with colors showing surprise and amusement. This small, fragile human dared to speak directly to her? Maybe these humans were more interesting than her scouts had said. What started as a possible invasion turned into tense talks between the two species. The Valkyrie needed resources that the humans could provide. The humans needed protection from other, more dangerous aliens that lurked at the edges of explored space. They proposed a treaty between their peoples. To seal this agreement, they suggested something never done before, a political marriage between their civilizations. To everyone's surprise, Samantha volunteered. "Think of it as a diplomatic job," she told the other colonists. "Besides, I've always wanted to see more of space." Queen Xeralix felt her multiple hearts beat in a strange rhythm as she looked at this unusual human who showed no fear. Perhaps there was more to these humans than she had first thought. The next week, Samantha packed her few belongings. She said goodbye to her friends at the colony. Some thought she was brave. Others thought she was crazy. Most believed she was sacrificing herself to save them all. "You don't have to do this," said Lily, her closest friend at the research station. "We could find another way." Samantha shook her head. "I want to. This is the chance of a lifetime. Think of what I could learn about their civilization, their technology, their biology." "Always the scientist," Lily sighed, hugging her goodbye. The wedding ceremony was a strange mix of human and Valkyrie traditions. Samantha wore a white dress while Queen Xeralix was covered in ceremonial armor that shifted colors with her emotions. The colony's administrator performed the human part of the ceremony, while a tall, thin Valkyrie priest performed their rituals, which involved complex movements and a strange, beautiful song that made Samantha's skin tingle. When it was done, the queen looked down at her new human consort. "You are now part of the royal house of Valkyrie. Your people will have our protection, and your people will have our help," Samantha replied, looking up at the towering alien queen without fear. That night, Samantha boarded the queen's ship, the Celestial Talon. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built, stretching nearly 3 miles from front to back. Inside, the corridors seemed to twist and turn in ways that didn't make sense. The walls glowed with soft light that came from living organisms, not electric bulbs. The air smelled of spices Samantha couldn't name. Her room on the ship was designed for a human, but it still felt alien. The gravity shifted slightly at random times. The bed was too large and made of a material that adjusted to her body in a way that felt strange, but not unpleasant. The walls pulsed with soft light in a rhythm that reminded Samantha of breathing. Queen Xeralix visited her that evening. "Are your quarters acceptable?" she asked, ducking her tall frame through the doorway. "They're different," Samantha said honestly, "but I'll get used to them." The queen's skin shifted to a thoughtful blue color. "You are a curious creature, Samantha Wyatt. Most beings would be terrified to leave their home and join an alien species." "I'm scared," Samantha admitted, "but I'm more curious than afraid. Your civilization has technology we've only dreamed of. Your ships can travel distances that would take our fastest vessels centuries. I want to learn. And what will you teach us in return?" Xeralix asked. Samantha thought for a moment. "Adaptability, creativity. Humans are good at finding unusual solutions to problems." The queen made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We shall see." The next morning, the celestial talon lifted off from horizon's edge. Samantha watched from a viewing window as her home for the past 3 years grew smaller and smaller, until it was just a tiny dot on the surface of the planet. And then nothing at all. The ship hummed around her as it prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel. Samantha felt a mix of excitement and fear. She was going to see the stars in a way no human ever had before. "Are you ready?" Queen Zerlix asked suddenly beside her. "For what?" "To see the heart of the Valkyrie Empire." Samantha nodded. "I'm ready." The Queen's skin glowed with an approving gold color. "Then hold on to something. The first jump can be disorienting for species not used to it." The stars outside the window suddenly stretched into lines of light. Samantha felt a strange pressure all over her body, like being gently squeezed. Then everything went black for a moment. When her vision cleared, they were in a different part of space entirely. A huge red sun filled the view with several planets orbiting around it. "Welcome," said Queen Zerlix, "to your new home." The Valkyrie flagship Celestial Talon was huge. It was almost 3 miles long from front to back. Samantha felt very small inside its twisting hallways. She often got lost trying to find her way around. The ship's design didn't make sense to her human mind. Hallways changed direction without warning. Rooms sometimes moved to different locations. Queen Zerlix watched her new human wife with growing interest. For the Valkyrie, their marriage was just politics, a way to make peace between their peoples. But the Queen found herself fascinated by Samantha. The human adapted quickly to new situations. She was smart and brave, never showing fear even when surrounded by aliens twice her size. Samantha's room on the ship made her uncomfortable. The gravity changed without warning. The walls glowed with living light that pulsed like a heartbeat. The bed adjusted to her body in strange ways. "Does your room not please you?" the Queen asked, noticing Samantha's discomfort. "It's beautiful," Samantha said politely. "Just different. I'll get used to it." "You adapt to everything," Zerlix observed. "Your species is very flexible." Not everyone on the ship was happy about the Queen's new human wife. High Commander Vexalia, the Queen's top general, made it clear she didn't like Samantha. "She is a problem," Vexalia said during a private meeting with the Queen. "Humans barely know how to travel in space. What can they give our empire except weakness?" Other important Valkyrie agreed with Vexalia. They saw Samantha as a pet that the Queen had brought home on a whim. None of them tried to learn her language or customs. None thought she would survive a full year in their world. None except Queen Zerlix herself. The Queen spent more and more time with Samantha. She learned about Earth culture, science, and history. The human way of looking at things was refreshingly different from the strict Valkyrie way of thinking. One day Samantha got sick. A substance in the air that was harmless to Valkyrie was toxic to humans. The Queen personally made sure Samantha got treatment. She changed the air controls in her private part of the ship to make it better for human health. "Why do you care so much for this creature?" Vexalia demanded. The Queen's skin turned a deep, thoughtful blue. "Maybe because she is the first being in hundreds of years to see me as something other than a weapon or a throne. She sees me." As the days passed, Samantha learned more about Valkyrie culture. Their society was very strict. Everyone had their place, from the lowest worker to the Queen herself. They valued strength, honor, and loyalty above all else. Art and music existed, but were seen as less important than military skill. "Don't you ever question your place?" Samantha asked the Queen one evening as they shared a meal. The food had been specially prepared so that both species could eat it. "Question? No, I was born to be queen." "It is my purpose," Zerlix replied. "On Earth, we believe people can choose their own path," Samantha explained. "A child born to farmers might become a scientist or an artist or even a leader. That seems chaotic," the Queen said, but her tone was curious, not judgmental. "It can be," Samantha admitted, "but it also allows for new ideas, for growth and change." The Queen thought about this for a long time. "Perhaps that is why your species has advanced so quickly. You are not bound by tradition as we are." Samantha began to learn Valkyrie combat techniques, modified for her human limitations. The Valkyrie were warriors above all else, and even the Queen trained daily in their fighting arts. At first, the training masters were reluctant to teach a human, but Queen Zerlix ordered them to do so. "Your wife will embarrass herself," Vexalia warned. "Humans are weak and soft," but Samantha surprised everyone. Though she lacked the strength and natural weapons of the Valkyrie, she was quick and clever. She found ways to use her smaller size as an advantage. getting inside the reach of larger opponents. She never gave up even when knocked down again and again. "You fight well, for a human," her training master grudgingly admitted after she successfully completed a difficult combat sequence. "Thank you," Samantha replied, wiping blood from a cut on her cheek. "I'm a quick learner." Queen Xyrelix watched these training sessions with growing pride. Her human wife was earning respect among the Valkyrie warriors, not an easy task. At night, in the privacy of the royal chambers, Samantha and Xyrelix talked for hours. What had begun as a political arrangement was slowly becoming something more. The queen found herself looking forward to these conversations, to hearing Samantha's perspective on things the Valkyrie took for granted. "Your people view the universe so differently than mine," Xyrelix said one night. "Where we see order and hierarchy, you see possibility and change. Is that good or bad?" Samantha asked. "Different," the queen replied. "Neither good nor bad, just different." 3 months after their marriage, the ship arrived at Valkyrie Prime, the homeworld of the queen's people. It was a planet of stark beauty, towering crystal mountains, deep purple oceans, and cities that seemed to grow out of the landscape rather than being built upon it. Samantha stood on the observation deck, breathless at the sight. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It is home," Xyrelix said simply, standing beside her human wife. The queen's skin had taken on a warm golden hue that Samantha had come to recognize as contentment. The royal palace was even more impressive than the ship. It was carved into the side of a mountain, with spires that reached toward the sky. Inside, the ceilings were so high that Samantha could barely see them. The halls were filled with Valkyrie nobles, all curious to see the queen's human consort. "They're staring at me," Samantha whispered to Xyrelix as they walked through the grand entrance hall. "Of course they are. You are different, new, and you are mine," the queen replied. There was a possessive note in her voice that hadn't been there before. That night there was a grand feast to welcome the queen home. Hundreds of Valkyrie nobles attended, all dressed in their finest armor and jewelry. Samantha sat beside Xyrelix at the high table, feeling very small and very human among all these tall, powerful aliens. "Eat," the queen encouraged her. "The food has been prepared to suit your biology." Samantha tried a bite of something that looked like blue fruit. It tasted surprisingly good, like a mix of strawberry and mint. As the feast went on, one of the noble Valkyrie approached the high table. He was tall even for his species, with skin that rippled between green and black. "My queen," he said, bowing low. "I am Lord Draxtil. I speak for many when I say we are concerned about your human consort. Such a union is unprecedented. Change often is," Xyrelix replied coolly. "The humans are now our allies. Samantha is my wife. That is all any of you need to know." Lord Draxtil's skin darkened with anger, but he bowed again and returned to his seat. "You have enemies here," Samantha said quietly to the queen. "I have always had enemies," Xyrelix replied. "It comes with wearing the crown. But now I have something I have never had before." "What's that?" The queen's 6 eyes all focused on Samantha with an intensity that made her breath catch. "A true ally. Someone who sees beyond my title." For the first time, Samantha realized that despite all her power, Queen Xyrelix was lonely. Surrounded by subjects who feared her and nobles who wanted her power, she had no real friends, no one she could trust, until now. 6 months after Samantha married Queen Xyrelix, the Celestial Talon received an emergency call from a Valkyrie mining colony in the Obsidian Belt. Queen Xyrelix immediately ordered her fleet to jump to hyperspace to help. It could be a trap, Samantha warned. She had been studying reports about recent fights with the Hive Collective, a group of insect-like aliens who were trying to take over Valkyrie territory. "Even so, I cannot leave my people without help," Xyrelix replied. Her skin turned dark red, showing she was ready for battle. Samantha had been learning Valkyrie fighting techniques. The training was hard for a human, but she practiced every day. She asked to join the Queen's personal guard for this mission. Vexalia strongly objected, but Xyrelix allowed it. When they arrived at the mining colony, everything was strangely quiet. Buildings were empty. Equipment was left running. There were no bodies, no signs of fighting, just emptiness. "Something is wrong," Samantha whispered. Her hand rested on the special gun the Queen had given her as a wedding gift. She was right. The Hive Collective ship suddenly appeared from behind the planet's moon. They had hidden their energy signals to avoid being detected. Within minutes, the Valkyrie fleet was surrounded by enemy ships that outnumbered them 3-1. You led us into a trap. Vex'ahlia accused Samantha as the first enemy shots hit their ship, but Samantha was already moving. She pulled up glowing displays showing the battle. Your ships are faster but less able to turn quickly when they're in tight groups, she said. Break formation and scatter into the asteroid field. Their hive-mind connection works against them in chaotic environments. Queen Zerlix hesitated for a moment before giving the order. It was unusual and dangerous, but brilliant. The Valkyrie ships, each with its own pilot, could navigate the dangerous asteroids with precision that the hive-minded enemy couldn't match. When the battle ended, the Valkyrie had lost some ships, but the hive fleet was mostly destroyed. How did you know that would work? Zerlix asked privately. Her skin shimmered with the gold of victory mixed with the purple of curious wonder. Humans evolved as individual hunters before becoming a group society, Samantha explained. We understand both ways of thinking. Your people think as warriors. The hive thinks as one organism. I just found the weakness between those approaches. For the first time, the Valkyrie court looked at the queen's human wife with something like respect. All except Vex'ahlia, whose jealousy burned stronger than ever. After the battle, Queen Zerlix called a meeting of her war council. Samantha sat at her right hand, a position of honor that made many Valkyrie nobles uncomfortable. The hive collective grows bolder, the queen said. This ambush was well planned. They knew exactly when our mining colony would be most vulnerable. How did they know? Asked one of the council members. Could there be a spy among us? Vex'ahlia's eyes narrowed. Or perhaps the humans are not the allies we thought they were. My wife has just helped us win a battle against the hive, Zerlix said sharply. I will not hear such accusations. The meeting continued, with plans made to increase defenses around all Valkyrie colonies. Throughout it all, Samantha noticed Vex'ahlia watching her with cold hatred. That night, in their private chambers, Samantha told the queen about her concerns. Vex'ahlia hates me, she said, and she has influence with many of your nobles. Vex'ahlia has served me for many years, Zerlix replied. She is loyal to the Empire. To the Empire, yes. But to you? Samantha shook her head. I'm not so sure. The queen's skin rippled with concern. What makes you say this? The way she looks at you. Not with respect, but with hunger. She wants your power, Zerlix. The queen was quiet for a long time. I will watch her more closely, she finally said. But without proof, I cannot act against my highest commander. In the weeks that followed, Samantha began to explore more of the massive ship. She was fascinated by Valkyrie technology, which seemed to blend mechanical and biological elements in ways human science had never achieved. She spent hours in the ship's engine room, watching the pulsing core that powered the vessel. It wasn't exactly mechanical, nor was it fully alive. It existed somewhere in between, a quantum state that shouldn't have been possible according to human physics. You spend much time here, observed the chief engineer, a Valkyrie named Krell. Unlike many others, he had been friendly to Samantha from the beginning, curious about human technology. It's amazing, Samantha replied. Your power source doesn't follow the laws of physics as we understand them. Your understanding is limited, Krell said, but without mockery. The universe has many laws beyond those your species has discovered. Can you teach me? Samantha asked. Krell hesitated. Much of our technology is considered secret, even sacred. To share it with an outsider? I'm not just an outsider anymore, Samantha pointed out. I'm the Queen's consort. After considering this, Krell nodded. I will teach you what I can. But you must promise to use this knowledge only for the good of the Empire. I promise, Samantha said solemnly. And so began Samantha's education in Valkyrie quantum technology. It was difficult. The concepts went beyond anything taught in human science. But Samantha was a quick learner, and she found that her human perspective sometimes let her see connections that the Valkyrie missed. Your mind works differently than ours, Krell told her one day after she had suggested a modification to the power distribution system. You make leaps of intuition that we would not. Is that good or bad? Samantha asked. Different, Krell replied, echoing what the Queen had said months before. Neither good nor bad, just different. As Samantha learned more about Valkyrie technology, she began to understand something important. The Valkyrie, for all their advancement, had stopped innovating. Their technology was powerful but static. They improved what they had but rarely created anything truly new. "Why don't you experiment more?" she asked Krell one day. "Try new approaches?" "What we have works," he replied simply. "Change brings risk. But also progress," Samantha countered. This conversation was interrupted by an alarm. Red lights flashed throughout the ship as an announcement echoed in the Valkyrie language. "What's happening?" Samantha asked. "We're under attack," Krell said, rushing to his control panel. "Multiple Hive Collective ships approaching from Sector 7. Samantha ran to the bridge where Queen Zyralix was already giving orders to her fleet. The situation looked bad. The Hive had brought an even larger force this time. "They should not have been able to find us," Zyralix said, her skin dark with anger and concern. "We changed our route specifically to avoid their patrols. They're tracking us somehow," Samantha realized. But how? As the battle began, Samantha noticed something strange about the enemy's attack pattern. They seemed to know exactly where the Valkyrie ship's shields were weakest. It was as if they had access to detailed information about Valkyrie defense systems. "Their attacks are too precise," she told the Queen. "They know too much about our defenses." Zyralix's eyes narrowed. "You believe we have a traitor?" "I do," Samantha said grimly. The battle was fierce. Even with Samantha's tactical suggestions, the Valkyrie fleet was taking heavy damage. The celestial talon shook as enemy weapons struck its shields. In the middle of the fight, Samantha had an idea. "Let me go to the engine room," she told Zyralix. "I think I can modify our shield frequency to block their weapons." "Go," the Queen ordered. "Take 2 guards with you." Samantha ran through the shaking corridors of the ship, followed by 2 towering Valkyrie warriors. When they reached the engine room, she found it strangely empty. "Where is everyone?" one of the guards asked. Before anyone could answer, a blast of energy hit the guards from behind. They fell to the ground, stunned or dead. Samantha spun around to see Vexalia standing in the doorway holding an energy weapon. "I knew you would come here," the commander said, her skin dark with hatred. "Always meddling with our technology, trying to change things that should remain as they are." "You're the traitor," Samantha realized. "You've been feeding information to the Hive Collective." "Not a traitor," Vexalia corrected. "A patriot. The Queen has been corrupted by her fascination with you and your kind. She no longer sees what is best for our empire." "And an alliance with the Hive is better?" Samantha asked in disbelief. "They will leave us alone once the human colonies are destroyed," Vexalia said. "That was our agreement. And once you are gone, the Queen will return to her senses." She raised her weapon, aiming it at Samantha's heart. "Any last words, human?" Samantha looked past Vexalia to the doorway behind her. "Yes, look behind you." "I won't fall for such an obvious," Vexalia began, but her words were cut short as a blast of energy hit her from behind. She crumpled to the floor, revealing Queen Zyralix standing in the doorway, her royal weapon still glowing with power. "Are you hurt?" the Queen asked, rushing to Samantha's side. "No, I'm fine. But how did you know to come here?" Zyralix's skin rippled with a mix of emotions: relief, anger, sadness. "I took your warning to heart. I've been having Vexalia watched. When she left the bridge during battle, I knew something was wrong." Together, they returned to the bridge. With Vexalia's treachery revealed, the Queen sent a false message to the Hive ships using the commander's communication codes. After the battle and Vexalia's betrayal, Samantha's status among the Valkyrie changed. Soldiers nodded with respect when she passed. Council members asked for her opinion on important matters. Even the ship itself seemed to respond to her now. The hallways straightened their strange angles when she walked through them. The gravity became more like Earth's when she was nearby. Queen Zyralix watched this change with growing affection. What had started as a political marriage had become something neither of them expected: real attachment. During quiet times in the royal rooms, they shared stories about their very different lives, finding surprising similarities between their worlds. "On Earth, I was seen as strange," Samantha admitted one night. "Too focused on my work, too willing to go on deep space missions. People said I was running away from making connections with others. Among my people, I am alone because of my position," Zyralix replied. Her skin shifted to a twilight blue color that she now showed only to Samantha. "A queen may have partners but never equals. Until now." Their moment together was broken by the ship's alarm. Royal guards burst into the room, surrounding the Queen protectively. "The colony worlds are under attack," the lead guard reported. 17 planets are being hit at the same time. Our forces are overwhelmed. But the attackers weren't the Hive Collective. The weapon signatures belong to the Valkyries' own defense systems. That's impossible, Xeralix hissed. Those codes are known only to your most trusted commander, Samantha finished grimly. Vexalia has started a coup. The evidence was clear. Vexalia had spent months secretly reprogramming key defense systems, turning them against colonies loyal to the Queen. Now she had taken control of half the fleet, declaring that Xeralix had been corrupted by human influence and was no longer fit to rule. She claims your marriage has weakened the Empire, the communications officer reported. She's promised to remove all human influence from Valkyrie space, starting with your wife. The Queen's skin darkened to a black so deep it seemed to swallow light. Prepare my battle armor, she commanded. No one threatens my mate. For the first time, Samantha realized that their political arrangement had become something much more important to both of them. As the ship prepared for war, she went to her laboratory, where she had been secretly studying the quantum properties of Valkyrie technology. I need access to the ship's core, she told Xeralix when the Queen found her there. I think I can stop this, but you have to trust me completely. With my life, Xeralix replied without hesitation. With my empire. Samantha had spent months studying Valkyrie technology. With Krell's help, she had learned that their ships were partly alive, able to respond to the thoughts and needs of their crews. But the Valkyrie used this technology in limited ways, bound by tradition and fear of change. Humans, with their different way of thinking, might be able to connect with the technology in new ways. At least that was Samantha's theory. What exactly are you planning? Xeralix asked as they hurried to the ship's core chamber. Your technology responds to Valkyrie minds, Samantha explained. But what would happen if it connected to a human mind? Our brains work differently. We might be able to use the technology in ways you never imagined. The core chamber was at the very center of the massive ship. Inside was a swirling vortex of energy that powered all Valkyrie technology. It wasn't quite mechanical, wasn't quite alive, but something in between. I need to connect directly to the core, Samantha said. That's dangerous, Xeralix warned. Even for Valkyrie, direct connection can be harmful. We don't have a choice, Samantha replied. Vexalia has taken control of too many systems. This is our only chance. With Krell's help, they set up a modified interface that would allow Samantha to connect to the ship's systems. It was a simple metal headband with glowing blue circuits running through it. This has never been tried before, Krell warned. A human mind connecting to Valkyrie technology. I cannot predict what will happen. That's the point, Samantha said with a small smile. Unpredictability is humanity's specialty. As she put on the headband, the ship shuddered. Vexalia's rebel fleet had begun their attack. The Celestial Talon's shields were holding for now, but they wouldn't last forever. Whatever you're planning, do it quickly, Xeralix said, her skin pulsing with worry. We don't have much time. Samantha closed her eyes and activated the interface. Immediately her mind was flooded with information. It was overwhelming, like trying to drink from a fire hose. She could sense every part of the massive ship, from the smallest power conduit to the largest weapon system. Too much, she gasped. I can't process it all. Focus on one system at a time, Krell advised. Start with something small. Samantha concentrated on the lights in the core chamber. They dimmed, then brightened again at her thought. Good. She tried something more complex, the artificial gravity. It shifted, making everyone in the room momentarily float before returning to normal. It's working, she said through gritted teeth. But I need more. I need to connect to everything at once. That could kill you, Xeralix protested. Or save us all, Samantha countered. Drop all firewalls between ship systems. Complete integration. That has never been done, Krell said, alarmed. The power surge could destroy the ship. Trust me, Samantha pleaded, looking at Xeralix. Please. The Queen hesitated only a moment before nodding to Krell. Do it. The engineer typed a series of commands into his control panel. Throughout the massive ship, barriers between systems dissolved. Weapons, life support, navigation, communication, all flowed into one another like rivers joining an ocean. Samantha's mind expanded with them. The pain was intense, but so was the wonder. She could feel every part of the ship now, not as separate systems but as one unified whole. And the ship could feel her. Her human consciousness with its lateral thinking, its creativity, its ability to make intuitive leaps that Valkyrie logic would never allow. Samantha? Zeralix's voice seemed to come from far away. Are you all right? I'm more than all right, Samantha replied, her voice strange and echoing. I can see everything. Feel everything. The ship. It's alive, Zeralix. More alive than you ever realized. As Samantha's consciousness merged with the ship's system, strange things began to happen. Hull breaches from enemy fire sealed themselves with living metal. Weapon systems reconfigured, firing in patterns that confused the rebels' defensive algorithms. Most dramatically, the celestial talon itself began to change shape. Components rearranged into forms never before seen in Valkyrie engineering. The ship became more fluid, more responsive, more alive. On the rebel flagship, Vexalia watched in horror as her carefully planned coup fell apart. The Queen's vessel was no longer just a ship. It had become something new, a hybrid of Valkyrie technology and human imagination. What is happening? She demanded of her science officer. How is this possible? Unknown, Commander, the officer replied, his skin pale with fear. The Queen's ship is evolving. Our weapons cannot penetrate its new defenses. Vexalia's skin darkened with rage. All ships concentrate fire on the Celestial Talon's command deck. Kill the Queen. Kill the human. End this abomination. The rebel fleet focused their attack, but it was too late. The Celestial Talon had become something beyond their understanding. Its weapons struck with perfect accuracy, disabling the rebel ships one by one without destroying them. Surrender. Vexalia, Queen Zeralix's voice boomed across all communication channels, accompanied by Samantha's. Their voices had merged, just as their minds had within the ship's systems. This ends now. In the core chamber, Zeralix watched in amazement as Samantha seemed to glow with internal light. Her human wife was floating several inches above the floor, surrounded by swirling energy patterns that matched the ship's core. What is happening to her? The Queen asked Krell. I don't know, the engineer admitted. But the ship? It's responding to her in ways I've never seen. It's as if her human mind has unlocked potential in our technology that we never knew existed. Through her connection with the ship, Samantha could see the rebel fleet surrendering. Vexalia's coup was over before it had truly begun. With a thought, Samantha ordered the ship to send boarding parties to secure the rebel vessels and arrest their leaders. Then she turned her attention to the damaged Valkyrie colonies. The defensive systems that Vexalia had turned against them were now back under control. With another thought, Samantha redirected repair ships to help the colonies that had been hit hardest. Hours passed as Samantha remained connected to the ship, making changes, fixing problems, exploring the potential of the merged human Valkyrie technology. Zeralix stayed by her side the whole time, watching in wonder as her human wife accomplished in hours what would have taken Valkyrie engineers months. Finally, when all the immediate crises had been addressed, Samantha decided it was time to disconnect. She sent a mental command to the interface, expecting it to shut down. Nothing happened. She tried again, more forcefully this time. Still nothing. I can't disconnect, she said, a note of panic in her voice. The ship won't let me go. What do you mean it won't let you go? Zeralix demanded. Krell, shut down the interface. The engineer tried, but his commands were ignored. The ship is... It seems to be refusing my orders. 1 year after the failed coup, Samantha stood on the observation deck of the Celestial Talon looking out at the stars. The ship was no longer just a vessel. It had become an extension of herself, responding to her thoughts almost before she had them. And she in turn had become something more than purely human. Deep thoughts? Queen Zeralix asked, joining her by the view screen. The Queen's skin rippled with the golden-purple color that she now showed only to her wife. I was thinking about how much has changed, Samantha replied. A year ago, I was just a scientist on a small colony. Now I'm co-ruler of an empire spanning dozens of star systems. Do you regret your choice? Zeralix asked, a rare note of uncertainty in her voice. Samantha turned to look at her alien wife. Despite their differences, one human, one Valkyrie, one small and seemingly fragile, one tall and obviously powerful, they had found a connection that transcended species. Not for a moment, Samantha said, taking the Queen's much larger hand in her own. This is where I belong. The integration of Samantha's mind with Valkyrie technology had changed more than just the celestial talon. It had changed the entire empire. For the first time in centuries, the Valkyrie were innovating again, exploring new possibilities rather than just maintaining old traditions. Under the guidance of their two queens, they had begun to transform their military-focused society. Art and science were given new importance. The strict hierarchy that had defined Valkyrie culture for millennia was slowly relaxing, allowing individuals to pursue their own interests and talents. Not everyone was happy with these changes. A faction of traditionalists, led by several high-ranking nobles, still believed that the human influence was corrupting their pure Valkyrie ways. They had not dared to attempt another coup after Vexalia's failure, but their resistance was a constant challenge. "The Council of Elders has requested another meeting," Ziralik said, her skin showing hints of annoyance. "They wish to discuss the changes to the education system again." "They're afraid," Samantha said. "Change is always frightening, especially for those who have held power for a long time." "They should be afraid," Ziralik replied, her old warrior instincts showing. "If they stand in the way of progress, they will be left behind." Samantha smiled at her wife's directness. Despite all the changes, some things remained constant, like the Queen's fierce determination. "We need to show them that change doesn't mean losing what makes Valkyrie culture special," Samantha said. "Just adding to it, making it stronger." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Krell, now the head of scientific development for the Empire. His skin glowed with excitement. "My queens," he said, bowing, "the new hybridized fleet is ready for your inspection." They followed him to the main hangar where dozens of ships waited. These vessels were unlike anything the Valkyrie had built before. Sleeker, more organic in design, yet clearly powerful. They combined the best of Valkyrie technology with new innovations inspired by human thinking. "They're beautiful," Samantha said, walking among the ships. She could feel them already, their systems reaching out to her mind through the connection she shared with all Valkyrie technology now. "And deadly," Ziralik added with approval. "The Hive Collective will think twice before attacking our borders again." The Hive had been unusually quiet since Vexalia's failed coup. Intelligence reports suggested they were rebuilding their forces, perhaps planning another attack. But with these new ships, the Valkyrie would be ready. "There's something else," Krell said, leading them to a smaller vessel set apart from the others. "This one is special." The ship was tiny compared to the others, barely large enough for 2 passengers. Its hull was a swirling mix of silver and blue, constantly shifting like the surface of a calm ocean. "What is it?" Ziralik asked. "We call it the Nexus," Krell replied. "It's the first ship designed specifically for your human queen. It's built to respond to her unique connection with our technology." Samantha approached the small ship, feeling its systems reach out to her mind. Unlike the other vessels, which connected to her with a sense of respect and distance, this one embraced her consciousness like an old friend. "It's different," she said, running her hand along the smooth hull. "More intimate somehow." "It's designed to be an extension of yourself," Krell explained. "A perfect blend of human intuition and Valkyrie technology. There has never been anything like it in our history. Can I try it?" Samantha asked, excitement building in her. "That's why we brought you here," Ziralik said, her skin showing amusement at her wife's enthusiasm. The inside of the Nexus was unlike any ship Samantha had seen before. There were no controls, no panels, no screens, just 2 comfortable seats and a clear dome that offered a 360-degree view of space. "How do I fly it?" she asked as she and Ziralik settled into the seats. "You don't fly it," Krell said before closing the hatch. "You become it." As the hangar doors opened, revealing the star-filled void beyond, Samantha closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. The ship responded instantly, lifting off the deck and gliding smoothly into space. It was like nothing she had ever experienced. With the celestial talon, controlling the ship had required concentration and effort. With the Nexus, it was as natural as moving her own body. She thought about going faster, and they accelerated. She wondered what was behind that distant star, and the ship plotted a course toward it. "This is amazing," she breathed, opening her eyes to see Ziralik watching her with all 6 eyes, the Queen's skin glowing with pride. "You are amazing," Ziralik replied. "Look what you've helped us create." They spent hours exploring in the small ship, pushing its capabilities to the limit. Samantha discovered that it could move in ways no other Valkyrie vessel could, making impossible turns and accelerating at speeds that should have crushed them, if not for the advanced inertial dampeners. When they finally returned to the Celestial Talon, a crowd had gathered in the hangar to watch. Many of the Valkyrie bowed as Samantha emerged from the Nexus, showing a level of respect that would have been unthinkable a year ago. "They're starting to see," Zarelix said quietly as they walked back to their quarters. "What I saw in you from the beginning." "And what was that?" Samantha asked. "Potential," the Queen replied. "Not just your own, but what you could help our people achieve." That night, as they prepared for the diplomatic reception that would introduce the new fleet to representatives from allied species, Samantha received an urgent message from Earth. The human colonies that had first made contact with the Valkyrie were under attack, not from the Hive Collective, but from another alien race that had never been seen before. "We need to help them," Samantha said immediately. "Of course," Zarelix agreed without hesitation. "They are your people, and now they are mine as well." The Celestial Talon changed course, heading for Earth at maximum speed. Samantha sent a message ahead in the new Nexus ship, which could travel even faster than the flagship. She promised the human colonies that help was on the way. When they arrived, they found a desperate situation. The unknown aliens had technology unlike anything the humans or Valkyrie had encountered before. Their ships seemed to phase in and out of normal space, making them nearly impossible to hit with conventional weapons. "Our weapons aren't effective," the commander of the human defense fleet reported. "They just pass through their ships when they're in that phased state." Samantha studied the enemy vessels through the Celestial Talon's advanced sensors. "They're using some kind of dimensional shifting technology," she said. "They're partially in our dimension and partially in another. Can we counter it?" Zarelix asked. Samantha thought for a moment, her mind connecting with the ship's systems to run complex simulations. "Yes," she said finally, "but not with any existing weapon. We need something new." Working with Krell and the ship's engineers, Samantha designed a new type of weapon, one that could affect objects in multiple dimensions simultaneously. It was a blend of Valkyrie quantum technology and human theoretical physics, something that neither species could have created alone. "It's ready," Samantha announced as the enemy fleet approached for another attack on the main human colony, but untested. "Sometimes one must leap without knowing where one will land," Zarelix said, quoting an old Valkyrie proverb. The new weapons worked better than anyone had expected. The enemy ships, suddenly vulnerable, were quickly disabled. Rather than destroying them, Samantha suggested capturing one for study. "We need to understand who they are and why they attacked," she explained. "Knowledge is as important as victory." The captured aliens were unlike any species either. Humans or Valkyrie had encountered before, crystalline, beings that existed partially in a dimension beyond normal space-time. Communication was difficult at first, but with Samantha's unique connection to technology, they eventually established a basic understanding. The crystalline beings, who called themselves the Luminar, had not intended to attack. They had been trying to establish contact, but had no concept of individual bodies or physical harm. What the humans had perceived as an attack had been, to the Luminar, an attempt at communion. "They exist so differently from us," Samantha explained to the gathered human and Valkyrie leaders. "They don't understand the concept of injury or death as we do. To them, physical bodies are just temporary vessels.